Every year, we have NBA players that give us a glimpse of a surprising season ahead during the NBA preseason, and this year is no different. So today, I want to talk about some of the most surprising performances so far. So if you guys like my content, make sure you like and subscribe. We're on the grind. Let's try to get 14 likes on today's video, and let's hop into it. Now, we need to be careful not to give too much credit to preseason performance. There's stuff to take away, yes, but we have to temper our expectations for obvious reasons going into the regular season. But if we're talking about this year's preseason, we've got to start it off with Talen Horton Tucker of the Los Angeles Lakers, who's definitely had the most interesting storyline to follow so far. The Lakers aren't counting on any young talent this season. If they get any help from guys like Horton Tucker, that's just a bonus, but it really looks like he might be the real deal. The Lakers got him with the 46th pick in the second round of last year's 2019 NBA draft. At the time of the selection, it didn't get much attention. Most people just saw another second round pick. He went into the draft after a freshman season at Iowa State, where he averaged 12 points, shooting 41% from the field and 31% from three. Nothing crazy really at all. Now, there were some things to get excited about. Despite being 6'4", he had an absolutely insane 7'1" wingspan. He's also really young. He just turned 20 years old 3 weeks ago. This past year, he spent most of his time in the G League, where he was pretty solid, averaging 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. He's a guy that just never gets talked about when referring to the Lakers' future and what this team is going to look like next season. But with what we've seen in the preseason, Horton Tucker might be a real impact player for this team. In 4 preseason games, he averaged 21 points, shooting 55% from the field and 54% from three. This includes a 33-point, 10 rebound, and 4 assist game against the Los Angeles Clippers. No, I don't expect him to be some top option on this team, but I do expect to see a lot more of him this year. If we're talking about Horton Tucker, I feel we got to talk about his teammate Kyle Kuzma. Kuzma is a very interesting player and a very polar player, which was evident recently after his $40 million contract extension. At one point, Kyle Kuzma was being praised as a future star after dominating the NBA Summer League, then putting up 16 points and 6 rebounds, shooting 37% from three as a rookie. As time has gone on, the opinions of Kuzma have really started to change, and for good reason. He's struggled as a defender, and to this point hasn't been nearly the three-point threat we thought he would be. But what's so interesting about Kuzma is the team he plays on. Yes, there's a ton of pressure playing for a contender, but this season he's going to have a whole new set of expectations, and if they can get really any improvement at all out of him, this team is going to be scary. I think the addition of Dennis Schroeder could really be a game changer for Kuzma, as now this team isn't constantly trying to depend on him to be this sixth man / third option, which he clearly isn't capable of right now. I'm saying all this because he's looked pretty good in the preseason, averaging 18 points, shooting over 40% from three. LeBron thinks a Kyle Kuzma breakout is coming, so I'm excited to see if that is true. I've always been a huge believer in him since his Summer League dominance. I feel I have to mention John Wall, especially since I decided to make the claim that our expectations for him and Durant were just way too high coming off injuries like this, but I've got to give props where props are due. Yes, this is the preseason, but he's flat out looked good, and I'm excited to see what he does this year. In fact, both him and DeMarcus Cousins, who's dealt with the same injury, look very good, which makes this current James Harden trade situation very interesting. I don't know if this has to do with modern treatment or just defying the odds, but Wall doesn't really look like he's lost a step, and that was clear just seconds into him taking the court for the first time in a Rockets uniform. In 23 minutes a game during the preseason, he's averaged 16 points and 5 assists, shooting 47% from the field. Obviously nothing crazy, but I think most people just wanted to see how healthy he looked. He is in a weird spot right now with just how up in the air this roster is. I don't think there's a scenario where James Harden stays on this team. In fact, by the time you're seeing this, he could have already been traded, but depending on that package, I think this team actually might be a decent playoff team in the West. But speaking of the Rockets in the preseason, there's another guy I want to talk about, and that's Christian Wood. I'm going to keep saying this, but he just might have been the biggest steal of free agency, and I truly see a big season ahead. He's only played 1 preseason game, but man, did he look good. In 24 minutes, he went out there and put up 27 points and 10 rebounds. This is a guy that can truly defend and spread the floor with the potential to be a top option on this Rockets offense. Right now, he is one of my favorites to take home the Most Improved award. Next, I want to talk about some of the most surprising rookies, in my opinion, and we're going to start that off with Cole Anthony. Anthony's a guy that I wasn't very confident in going into his freshman season at North Carolina with where he was projected to go in the draft, but as we got closer and closer to the draft date and he began to start falling on boards, I started to like his value a lot more. Yes, he struggled and there were some off-the-court questions, but all those talents that had the country so excited about him coming out of high school were still there. I've said it so many times that small markets like the Magic have to take chances, so I loved them getting him with the 15th pick in the recent draft. This is a guy that I put as a sleeper for Rookie of the Year due to his boom or bust potential, and I'm starting to think he might be a boom. He looked really good in his preseason performances, being second for all rookies in points, averaging 14, shooting 47% from 3. I still have my concerns going forward. Despite some solid defensive possessions, I think that's going to be a long-term struggle. And to really secure minutes going forward, we're going to have to see more from him as a playmaker. I'm very curious to see how everything's going to stack up between him and Fultz this year, especially after this Fultz extension and the fact that I think he could be on the brink of a breakout year. Speaking of rookies, next up is Theo Maldon. Now, going into the season, Theo was consistently mocked as a lottery selection. A lot of the times, he was in the same conversation with another foreign prospect, Killian Hayes, who ended up going in the top 10. As the season went on, his stock really started to fall, and the Oklahoma City Thunder were able to get him via the 76ers with the 34th pick in the second round. Maldon's actually been the top scoring rookie in his 2 performances during the preseason, averaging 15 points as a 44% three-point shooter. How crazy would it be if the Thunder were able to find a true difference maker in the second round this early on in their rebuild? This is a team that has already found their future star with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, has some promising guys like Darius Bazley, but most importantly has basically every first rounder in existence. As a Thunder fan, I like what I've seen from Maldon, and I'm really hoping he can keep this up throughout this season, as there aren't many guys to take minutes away from him. Next up, we've got Shake Milton, who's one of the most slept-on players in the league. When given the opportunity, he's consistently stepped up to the plate, and I'm hoping this year Doc Rivers plans on us seeing a lot more of him, as I think he could be huge for this team. This is a 6'5" shooting guard with a 7-foot wingspan that went in the second round of the 2018 NBA draft. As a second-year player this past season, he averaged 9.4 points on 48% from the field and 43% from 3. But this doesn't tell you the full story, as most of the season, he didn't have a big role at all, but in a 9-game stretch towards the end of the year, he was on fire. He was getting 30 minutes a game where he averaged 18 points and 4 assists, shooting 57% from the field and 60% from 3. So far in the preseason, getting just 22 minutes a game, he's averaged a similar 17 points on 55-45 shooting splits. With him having another year of improvement under his belt and the Sixers bringing in guys like Seth Curry and Danny Green, I think they've truly done their best this offseason to put the best pieces possible around both Simmons and Embiid. Next up, we've got some Cleveland Cavalier wings. The Cavs have one of the most interesting young cores in the league. They've got quite a lot of promising guys, such as Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, Kevin Porter Jr., Isaac Okoro, and Jetty Osman. But even going into this season, it's very unclear who this team really believes in and how these minutes will be distributed. Jetty Osman is such an interesting player, as in little bursts, he's looked like a possible 20+ a game scorer, but has struggled with consistency. A year ago, he averaged 11 points, shooting 38% from 3, and so far in the preseason, he's looked great again, averaging 21 points on incredible efficiency. So with him being just 24 years old, I really wouldn't be surprised by a breakout year. I also really like what I've seen from their top 5 pick this season, Isaac Okoro. This was a selection a lot of Cavs fans weren't too excited about. He came into this draft really raw, but with him putting up an efficient 11 points a game during the preseason, just weeks removed from the NBA draft, has to be pretty promising for Cavs fans. Since we're talking about all these Cavs players, I might as well mention Dante Exum. Prospects like Exum are so interesting because they come in raw and everyone makes it very clear that they're going to need time to develop, but then 2 years into their NBA career, everyone gives up on them and writes them off as a bust. I'm not saying that isn't justified, but nowadays in the NBA, if you're a quote-unquote raw prospect, the clock is ticking a lot faster than I think most realize. So far in the NBA preseason, he's averaged 15 points and 5 assists, shooting 43% from 3. I loved Exum going into the draft, and I still have liked a lot of what I've seen from him in the league so far. If he can just start to put the ball in the basket at a league average rate I think he can bring a ton of value to this young Cavs team. But that's the video, guys. You guys give me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe. And the shout outs are gonna be Jude, Noah, Jizzle, OG, and Oscar. If you guys want to shout out in the next video, all you got to do is like the video and comment liked. Rev Notification Squad, I'll be one of the first to comment on the video, and I'll shout 5 of you guys out. With all that being said, hope you guys have a great day, and peace.